Welcome to this summer live edition of Saturday's Warrior. I'm Trevor, and with me, as always, is Adam. And we've got a hot one for you tonight. Normally, I like to think of this show primarily as BYU. We also like to do a lot of Big 12. But tonight, we're going to be talking a lot about the American Conference. A lot going on. And yes, newly minted American Conference, not the
American
AAC
Athletic Conference
anymore.
Yeah.
So, American Athletic. I was like, what is that other A? We called it the American anyway. So it is now officially the American with a mascot. So we're going to jump into it tonight because there's a lot to talk about. But please jump in the comments and join us. I'm even going to post it here. Let us know what your thoughts of Jake Retzlaff going to Tulane is. Technical difficulties. Are you back with me, Adam?
Yep. I'm getting there. I don't know if that's on my end or your end. I can't see you.
Well, are you there? Thinking this is
I'm here.
on
I still
my
can't
end.
see you. Yep.
Okay. So
there you go. Now you're back.
Now I'm back. Okay. All right. Wow. Well, I guess that's what we get for going live. So so we're going to go through it, talk about Jake Retzlaff. His final destination, where he's ended up after all that's gone down. We're going to talk about Memphis's offer and their bid to try to get to the Big 12, and as well as some more stuff going on. So let's go ahead and get into it, Adam. So Retzlaff, there's a lot of talk about several big P4 schools. I've talked about Notre Dame. He was tied to Tennessee, some others, and ultimately he settled for walking on at Tulane. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mixed. I think getting to a G4 school gives him the best chance to start. I mean, if he was going to go to any P4 school, he was going to have to fight for the starting job. And clearly he left BYU because he wants starters reps. He wants to get his tape on the field. He wants to get to the NFL. And going to a G5 isn't necessarily a bad move per se, to be able to make that jump. Tulane is a spot where quarterbacks have had success in the past. I mean, Darian Mensah had a fantastic year last year. So it's a quarterback-friendly offense. I can't help, and we'll never know the inner workings of what went on, right? But I can't help but feel like he shot himself in the foot a little bit by waiting this long. I mean, he announced he was leaving, 3 weeks ago? And I know that seems like a quick turnaround still when you're making a transfer decision, but he knew he was leaving in early June, and you had to get somewhere quick to learn that offense. Now we're a week out from fall camp, and him going in there and competing against a quarterback, and he doesn't even know the playbook. I mean, he's just digesting the playbook. So I don't like it for those reasons, but I wouldn't have liked it anywhere he went for those reasons. And so I think everybody's going to step back and compare and say, oh, well, is this better than what he would have been at BYU? Should he have just stayed? I think you hit the nail on the head, Trevor, the other week where you said, look, 7 games into the season, you've either got a successful starter who you're going with, or you turn the reins over to Bachmeier to see what the future is. There's not a spot for Retzlaff 8 games into the season after the Utah game. There's really just not, unless you have a slew of injuries and you go into your 4th string quarterback, which is unlikely. So I think if his priority was to go to the NFL, get something on film for NFL scouts, this is probably his best landing spot. I feel for him that it's not, a great opportunity no matter where he's at. I know he put himself in this situation. We've been through, we've had that discussion, but I do feel for the guy because it's probably the best shot he's got, but I don't like him walking into a football team a week before camp, whether that's G5, P4. I just think that's a tough ask.
Yeah. And what I will say is I don't know if he waited this long, because something I read did say that Tulane vetted his situation for a week. So I'm guessing even though the situation was settled and he could essentially put it aside, I'm guessing schools still wanted to do their due diligence.
That's a great
some
point.
Were either probably taking too long, or they probably said, you know what, there's just not enough certainty with this, not enough clarity, and they're like, we'd rather not touch it right now. So I'm guessing, I mean, if he had his chance, he's obviously going to Notre Dame or Tennessee or wherever. So I'm guessing those offers disappeared, and so then he started looking at the secondary offers. And of all those, if he has to go to a G4, you said this, not the worst place to end up. I mean, it probably would have been better if they still had Willie Fritz there, but I think they're still going to be a competitive program in the American. But I was looking at this, and they have 2 people transferring in already. So they have, Caden Somoza from Ball State, and then Brendan Sullivan from who's transferring from Iowa. So you've got 2 other guys who are transferring there looking for playing time, and chances are they're already getting a head start on the playbook and everything. And so Jake, I know he wanted to find a situation where he was going to start. Maybe this was still the best situation out of the schools that were willing to accept him and take on that risk. And so, I mean, I think that goes on to show that, like, people, he's turning his back on BYU. Like, I think there was really no choice for him but to leave.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad situation. Anywhere you go at this point, right, that there's not a team out there who's wandering into fall camp saying, well, I don't even have a guy on the roster. Like, somebody come and take the reins here. Everyone has a plan at quarterback going into the season. Everyone. So no matter where you go, you have to compete. I feel like this is, if you want starters reps, this is the best spot, right? You got to compete with the backup from Iowa who doesn't have that much experience. Retzlaff put together an 11-2 campaign at a P4 school. He comes in with the clout for sure. You're competing against a guy who quarterbacked at Ball State. Those guys might even start the season because they know the playbook. But at some point, Tulane's going to give Retzlaff a shot unless one of those guys comes out and starts the first 2 games on fire and is throwing 500 yards a game. He's going to get a shot at some point. And so I think it's probably his best situation. If you look at the quarterback situations around the country, maybe the Notre Dame, Tennessee situations, he's going to have a shot. But even there, the quarterbacks on those rosters are much more talented than the quarterbacks on Tulane's rosters. And so the odds that he wins those starting jobs with this little preparation are even smaller. And so I think if you look it out and say, all right, what's going to give me the best exposure with the highest likelihood of starting, where they're really going to turn the reins over to me, it probably is Tulane or a similar program. And if they do well, it's not bad. You can get there. You can get on. You can get to a bowl game. You can put plenty of film out there for NFL scouts and at least get a shot at the draft.
Yeah. I think you're right, and so I'm rooting for him. I hope he does really well. One thing I gotta say is that BYU has, I think, in college football, biasly obviously, but some of the best uniforms in all of college football. But I really like Tulane's too. So for me, I think that's a great swap.
And I would be on the opposite end of that spectrum. While I agree about BYU's uniforms, I just can't stand Tulane's color scheme and their adherence to the cartoon wave. Like, I don't mind it for a throwback uniform, but I feel like they're wearing throwback uniforms every week. And the green and the blue are this horrible clash of colors to me. It's not quite as bad as the Smurf turf with Boise State, but it's up there. Tulane is like, if we're doing uniform rankings, they're in the 110s of college football.
Oh, alas, we found something to disagree about, Adam, and this is where I put my foot down. So no, I love Tulane's uniforms. I disagree with you pointed out everything, and I like all of those things. So, all right. So sticking with the American, there's another American school making big noise today, arguably bigger noise, and that is with Memphis making a bid for the Big 12, the value of the price tag of $200 million coming through sponsorships to the conference over the course of 5 years. They're pulling an SMU saying, hey, we're going to forego any additional revenue. This is a no-lose situation. And, this obviously blew up. I was really busy, so I missed all the blow up. And by the time I had a chance to jump into it more, the Big 12 had already come out and said, look, we're not interested. So tell me, Adam, what is your take on Memphis making this plea to the Big 12, basically pushing all their chips in? And what do you think of the Big 12 rejecting it?
Well, so on the one hand, brilliant move by Memphis, because you got to get to P4 level if you're going to play the game. And Memphis obviously desperately wants to play the game, right? They want to be SMU, and they'll do whatever it takes, obviously, to get up there. I mean, this on the other hand, to me, this reeks of desperation. They're reading the cards, and this is a desperate move. I tip my hat to Memphis for being creative and coming up with a way to walk into a conference and say, look, this is all win for you, right? $200 million in sponsorships. Anything we earn as a member goes to the Big 12, and we get nothing, right? We might get more eyeballs in our media deal and improve our media deal, and we'll get nothing from that for the next 5 years, and we'll just throw ourselves at your feet. We're begging you to let us in. So I don't begrudge Memphis for making this move. When I first heard it, I didn't know about the Big 12's reaction either, and I kind of went back and forth, and I'm thinking, okay, definite win for basketball side, right? You're improving your basketball profile, which you don't need to do, but you could do. Football, you're definitely taking a step back by admitting Memphis. They don't have a history of success. SMU, you could even argue in the 80s before they got the death penalty, they had some sustained success there by cheating. They had some recent success, sort of. So SMU was a stretch, but then they made the CFP the first year and totally legitimized themselves in the ACC. So, but Memphis is a way bigger stretch than SMU football. And from a football standpoint, I feel like it makes us take a step towards the American instead of towards the Big Ten. And that's kind of how I see partners in the Big 12. Is there a team out there that's going to elevate our profile? Probably not. Maybe Boise State, right? You could argue that they have a sustained football program dominance that could elevate your football profile. If you don't do that, then you're just going all in on basketball and saying, we're a basketball conference. So my gut reaction was, from a business standpoint, I probably would lean away from Memphis. And finally, from a BYU fan standpoint, I still remember the brawl against Memphis after our bowl game. And so from a BYU fan standpoint, I don't want to see those guys on the field. I don't want to see them anywhere near BYU football. I didn't enjoy playing them in the bowl game. I didn't love that Kai Nakua took a cheap shot to the guy's chin after the game. It was ugly. Maybe a low point for the Bronco Mendenhall era. So I don't want to see Memphis on the field from a BYU fan standpoint. But I tried to assess it just logically, as dispassionately as I could, to say, yeah, we probably don't want Memphis in the conference.
A quick tangent. It's funny about that team. Well, first is that I remember seeing Kai Nakua do that. I was like, dude, your jersey's white. You're not even playing. Like, you're not dirty like everyone else. Like, sit down. What are you doing? Little did I know he would become one of my all-time favorite players for BYU. But also, oh man, his name's escaping me now. But what's interesting is that their head coach went on to coach at Virginia Tech while Bronco was at UVA, which I don't know if that added to the rival. I don't know
Fuentes.
if those were thinking
Fuentes was his name. And that did stoke that rivalry. I mean, there was a lot of talk, I remember, in Mendenhall's first couple of years, because he couldn't beat Virginia Tech in his first couple of years. It took him to year 3 to do it. And so, that stoked that rivalry big time.
But he did beat Virginia Tech, which is saying something for UVA. So
he did.
He got there. So, I'm with you on this. Again, I didn't even have time to process it today by the time it all happened. So, I'm with you. So looking at it from Memphis's point of view, you've got to do it. Like, it does reek of desperation, but that's the time that we're in. And it also goes to show that the playoff, even though it's being pitched as we have, as access to everybody, it's more clear than ever that there isn't as much access, that
Correct.
the Power Four, or the Power Four, and really, the Big Ten and the SEC are really squeezing that and making it even harder, which is crazy to think about, because we always wanted a playoff. We always thought that would bring more access and more fairness and a chance for the little guy. And now that we have it, we're seeing just how desperate everybody is to get a spot on the life raft. And unfortunately, Memphis may have been one of the first that was cut. They're right there, probably ahead of, potentially Boise State. They're ahead of Tulane, USF. Those were kind of the next guys, the first guys out, right, of the Big 12 when they made their selections. And, Memphis, it does make sense in a lot of ways for the Big 12. Looking at it from a Big 12 perspective, they're bridging that gap between that center of the conference and the more eastern wing. They do have rivalries with some of the other newer conference members in Houston, UCF, and and Cincy, to an extent. So there's a lot there. Basketball, yeah, great. You can continue to pad that. Something that they have that you talked about that these other schools that the Big 12 turned away when you're talking about Gonzaga and UConn. When we were talking about UConn, it wasn't including football. So something that Memphis brings to the table is they do bring football. They do bring all their sports. And so that, to me, I like that. I kind of don't like the half in, half out, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right. The football doesn't really move the needle. And I remember before adding the four corner schools, right, from the Pac-12 is, we're thinking, okay, does it make sense? Do we need to add some more to start creating more value? Who do we need to go get these guys? But then even though Colorado had not had success its entire time in the Pac-12, Utah, our rival, obviously that makes sense, but doesn't bring a new market. The Arizona schools, yeah, they make sense, but they weren't like real blue bloods. It was just like, as soon as they were in the picture, it completely forgot about all these other schools, which goes to show like there is that difference in perception. And all of a sudden it's like, when I was like, man, I'd like to see Boise State in the conference, I'm like, no, forget Boise State. I'd rather have Colorado because they had that P4 moniker, right? And then you also look at, okay, Memphis right now, yeah, they bring a lot of money. I'm trying to do the math here right now. 2 million divided by 5, because it's over a course of 5 years of this current deal, divided by 16, assuming it goes evenly to everybody, that's 2.5 million, per year for everybody.
Per school.
That really move, or per school, yeah. Does that really move the needle for, after that contract? For then you got to have a new contract, and is Memphis there adding value to the conference, or are they just going to be splitting that next pot? So you're like thinking short term, okay, we're getting 2.5 a year. Is that going to be enough to make up the difference for what Memphis, how they value the conference and the perception of the conference, when we are trying to look more like an SEC, more like the Big Ten, instead of, more like a G4 school, or G6 now, I guess. And you also have to look at, we talked about Gonzaga, UConn. Guess who else they said no to? They've already said no to Washington State, to Oregon State. And those are Power 4 programs, right? And we are, as well as, the first time they vetted everybody with as all those other schools that I mentioned. So it is a nice offer. It was enough that they had to consider it. They got together, and also, I don't know if this had come out before and I just missed it, but this is the first I'm hearing about it. And I read that they've been working on this for over a year, trying to put this together, meeting with presidents, going around the country, getting these sponsors together. So I give them props for being able to kind of keep that quiet and then roll out with this. I have a sneaky, I suspect that they would have, they probably had a good idea of what the outcome of the vote was going to be before it went forward. But
I think so too. But I think that's the kicker, is if you're the Big 12, you're much more likely to wait for the ACC to implode and pick off those teams, because that's not settled. The ACC is not settled at all, right?
Yeah.
You still got FSU that wants out. You still got Miami that wants out. You got Clemson that wants out. And so SEC, Big 10, and Big 12 are all looking at that conference and still licking their chops and just saying, okay, whether it's 2030 or 2035, at some point that conference is likely to implode, and you want to be there ready to pick up the pieces. And if you're filling yourself with G5 teams, that makes it much less appealing. And so I think there's something there that at this point the Big 12 is not looking to expand that way. It's going to be with ACC teams. But really, when you look at it, if you see this from Memphis's point of view, maybe this is a two-part piece, and it has to be a two-part piece. First, you bring forth the offer, which is a very generous offer to the Big 12. But the second piece, where you got to back it up, you got to win on the field. If Memphis goes out there and gets into the CFP, or they do it 2 years in a row, and they show even short-term sustained success, I think the Big 12 would do it. I think they would. I think they say, well, somebody's going to scoop them up. Let's go. They add value now. They're winning. And that's what Utah did to get into the Pac-12, right? They had like 2-3 winning seasons under Urban Meyer, and the Pac-12 is like, sweet, let's go. After years of, I'm not calling our rivals mediocre prior to Urban Meyer, but they had they had a couple conference championships there in the WAC in the Mountain West, but they had this incredible run for just a handful of years. So I don't think it takes much, as far as you don't need a decade of sustained football dominance but you gotta knock on that door a couple years. You got to get into the CFP. You got to be the G5 program. If you show yourself as the G5 program for 2 or 3 years, then you can kick down that door. But that's not Memphis. They are not that team right now. That's maybe Boise State, right? They're the only ones who could say that, and because where they're at regionally, and because of their other sports, and you know what, maybe because of the Smurf turf, people don't want to bring them into the conference. And so Boise State's got their own problems, but until you have that level of success, conferences aren't going to mess around with a team like Memphis.
Yeah, I think you bringing up the ACC is exactly right, because that 5-year timeline is right in line with when the ACC. Everything's bound to happen with Florida State and Miami, but UNC, Clemson, all them, and if you're looking at who we'd rather have, Virginia Tech or
Right.
NC State or
UNC.
whoever, you're taking a spot. Louisville, even, like, I'd rather have Louisville over Memphis, and so. No matter, like, even if you're not like, and it could, like, end up some weird way where Miami ends up, not getting a seed or whatever. You never know what's going to happen, that you want to, have those spots available. And like you said, if you fill it up already. So anyway, I think I see both sides of it. And actually, we had comment here. This is before we even started the video. So I'd be remiss if I didn't get to it. I apologize. UC Fez says, I can definitely see both sides of the argument, but I was really hoping after I saw the agreement, they would have accepted it. I understand that ESPN would most likely have not given them extra cash, but as a UCF fan, it would be exciting to play them again. And we mentioned that, like, yeah, they're probably not getting extra money, and they're okay with that, based on the bid they made. But yeah, I mean, having some of that regional rivalry with these schools would be cool for them, and you love watching that. But it just doesn't make sense.
I think I love seeing a UFC or UCF perspective on this, and it'd be interesting to see some of those other schools that had that rivalry here from Houston or Cincy, what their view of this is, because they had that connection to Memphis. UCF made that jump successfully to the Big 12, and so I think they view that as an achievable leap for Memphis, and saying, yeah, come on, let's bring them on board. So it would be interesting to hear from the different institutions to see how different the perspectives are.
Yeah, definitely. And what's crazy is I'm thinking back to, and I might be butchering the exact conference layout, but you had like the Metro Conference, then you had like early Conference USA, and in those versions of whatever, like West Virginia was there, Cincy was there, you had UCF wasn't even in the group of 5. They weren't even FBS yet during much of that. Louisville was there, and just to see like where these programs have been, and this was hard, and to be. Sorry, guys. That's are we back?
Yeah, you went to auto tune there. You got a great voice.
Well, I am in rural Idaho right now on vacation. That's the different background from usual. But yeah, I'm just saying it's got to sting for Memphis to be so close to watch your counterparts go and probably peak at the right time to be able to make the cut, and still not be able to quite get in. That you have to resort to such measures and still not be able to get in. I mean, to even watch someone like SMU that had the death penalty and struggled for so long, still be able to find their way in before you, it's got to hurt real bad. And as being it felt like someone that felt like we were kind of like the first one out repeatedly that just didn't quite make the cut. I get it. So I feel for Memphis fans. I do. I don't know any Memphis fans, but I know they're out there. Justin Timberlake.
You empathize with that. You feel that. I remember that emotion of making that first bid to the Big 12 in the mid to late 2010s and getting rejected, and you're just feeling like, come on, like you just want to kick down the door. It's not fair, and it's not. It's not fair. In a perfect world, there would be much more equality of competition, and much more opportunity for schools like Memphis to have a shot at quote unquote P4 status. And so that side of me wants that for them, because I remember so vividly what that felt like on the outside. Now we're on the inside, and I'm like, well, I don't know if we should add Memphis. What do they add value? Da, da, da. This exact same stuff they were saying about us just a few years ago. And now we step in and we prove that we're adding value. And you hope we're building this football juggernaut, based on how the last 15 months have gone. But you hope you're there representing and showing, hey, yeah, if a program's really prepared like us, you can make that leap and be super successful. But I don't know. I don't see that for Memphis necessarily, and obviously the rest of the Big 12 doesn't either.
Yeah, it's a bummer for them. They may yet still find their way. There's going to be a lot more shifting around, but it'll be interesting to see if they end up going to the Pac-12 instead. Now that this offer, which goes to show why there wasn't more movement with the Pac-12 sooner with Memphis, is they were trying to get their ducks in a row here, and they must have felt like it was now or never to take their shot, and they took their shot. And now it'll be interesting if the Pac-12 is worth it. The calculus changes on that. UC Fez says, you guys bring up a good point, though. I would much rather have an ACC school. I like Georgia Tech. We didn't mention Tech, even though they're not a sexy brand, they bring a lot. Louisville or any other over Memphis would just be nice to have a regional away game. Yeah, absolutely. So Memphis does make sense. If it comes down to it, or if the Big 12 gets their end of the deal, and somehow the ACC, steal, or other conferences steal Big 12 schools away, and you got to plug holes, then you start looking at it, and Memphis makes a lot more sense. But I don't know I don't think that'll happen. And until that does, I just don't think.
Yeah. Well, and I forget UCF's on an island, right? West Virginia, UCF, they're kind of on an island out there in the Big 12 still. Yeah. I think we will grow, and I think they will get those regional rivalries. But you got to feel like that if you're UCF. BYU just got the four corner schools, right? I mean, we got tons of regional rivalries now in this conference, and we think it's great. Texas schools are close enough, but UCF and West Virginia are sitting there out kind of on that East Coast island, and saying, well, who are we going to play that's anywhere near us? I mean, UCF's traveling 1 million miles just to play any away game.
Yeah, I mean, but they wouldn't trade that to for closer games to be in the group of six. It's worth it, but yeah, it does suck, and you hate to see these rivalries torn apart. That's the part that's terrible about realignment. But in Memphis, I mean, they're probably closer to those old Big 8 schools than they are to UCF, but it's still a lot closer than probably their other options. So, very interesting. It's crazy. Just when you think realignment's done, something like this pops up, and it's just always going. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It won't be done for a while. I think we've got 10 or 15 years before we get any semblance of stability in it.
Well, I guess I thought it was done until the next wave of
the next ACC.
Florida State.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I think we'll still get stuff here and there. I think Boise State will continue to make a run. At P4 status. Like I said, I think of all the football programs, they have the most standing out of anybody to say we belong. UNLV is trying to put together a run to say the same thing, and I think you'll just see a lot of these schools popping up and saying, hey, look at that, UConn basketball national champions, accept us into the Big 12, they'll make another push. And it's such a coveted status now. And now with SEC and Big 10 trying to squeeze out everybody, including ACC and Big 12, forget it. If you're G5, you're on the outside, right? At this point, Big 12 and ACC are still fighting for relevance as those two try and throw their weight around and be like, well, we're the only two conferences around. And so if you're the G5, you barely even have a voice now, because the Big 12 and the ACC are getting all the attention, saying, no, we belong. We're going to show it on the field. Here we go. And G5 is not even part of that discussion right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking at the old Metro Conference had Georgia Tech, who's been in, the ACC for a long time. And weren't they SEC at one point left? Cincy, Louisville, Memphis State at the time, but Memphis, Tulane, who's another one that's just missing out. And then Florida State was in there. Virginia Tech was in there for a time. South Carolina. And so, I mean, this is going
You're dipping deep in your conference history here. This is impressive, Trevor.
To mid-70s. And so
dropping a little knowledge bomb.
No, I'm just looking it up, and so, but I knew a lot of those schools overlap. But so to go on and see all of them have success and just be out and watch a school like UCF, UC Fez, if you're still on here, I mean, you guys peaked at the right time.
Oh yeah,
and are, because of the location, because of the growing student body, but also alumni base. It really UCF.
But you got to throw a lot of respect to UCF. That is a meteoric rise in modern day college football. I mean, they are the youngest football program out of anybody in the conference. And to go from when they started the program to having the undefeated 2017 season and then kicking the door in to come into P4 status, that's a cool story.
Yeah. What's interesting is, and they also just missed the chance at really getting into this playoff, right? Because that wasn't really, they hadn't quite extended it that far, right? And so had it been a couple years later, they might have. But I almost wonder if being able to have that undefeated season and the defeat of Auburn and is probably more valuable than going and getting crushed in the playoff like Cincy, and and because then you can always say, you'll never know.
You've always got that undefeated season now.
Yeah, exactly. And to hang their hat on. So, man, crazy time. It's wild. I'm just grateful we're in the Big 12. I love the Big 12. I think BYU truly belongs in the Big 12 and adds value. And I think I love the conference, and I think we're in a good place now. But yeah, I feel for these fan bases. I hate seeing realignment tear apart rivalries and regionality and all that. And I've said this time and again, I've done lots of videos. I'll do more on what I think should happen, but alas, this is the reality, and it stings.
Yeah, it does.
Great. Well, we had some other stuff planned for tonight, but we didn't foresee all this news.
Breaking news.
Actually, I want to ask one thing, because we've been talking a lot about the American. So they have an official conference mascot.
They do.
First one. So I just wonder, should the other conferences go get mascots? And if so, what should the Big 12s be?
No.
Bucky the Beaver?
No. There should be no Big 12 mascot. The American mascot it reeks a little small time to me, that they have a mascot. Putting that aside, if Big 12 did have a mascot, I don't know where you go with the mascot, because it can't be related to any of the teams in the Big 12. Otherwise, you're showing favoritism. So what are you going to be, like a rock, I'm trying to think, a tree. Where do you go? I'm sure there's some animals and some birds out there you can go with, but it'd be so obscure, some kind of southeastern Texas cardinal. I don't know. What do
No, I mean, the American has one built in, because you think American Eagle, fine. Although maybe that hurts Liberty's chances of ever getting in, because that looks, it's a little too close. So,
what does the number 12 have to do with the, is there some kind of, there's 12 months of the year. We could be the Big 12 calendars.
I think you get one if you can get, sponsorships for it or something, maybe
you probably would.
The Ronald McDonald, mascot for the Big 12 or something.
The Big 12 targets.
Yeah. No,
Walmart, where the Big 12 shops.
I still like Bucky the Beaver, from Bucky's. So get him on there and make him the mascot. So
please no, let's not do mascots for conferences. Mascots for teams you can get away with. Everybody loves Cosmo the Cougar and his stunts and all that, but when you stretch that to a conference, we want to be the cool conference. I think your Mark has done a great job of establishing ourselves as the cool conference and having an edge to us. And I just sort of feel like if you bust out Bucky the Beaver at Big 12 Media Days, it's going to take a step back from the perception that we've developed as the Big 12.
Okay, what if they do a reality show and they take all 16 mascots from the Big 12 members and do some sort of reality show to get through, and then the winner gets to represent the whole conference.
Yes.
And I would take that, because I have full confidence that Cosmo could win that.
Yes, absolutely. Or how about this? If you just develop this sort of tournament thing where everybody took their football team and played on the field, and the champion is representing the conference for the year.
That's a novel idea. That's interesting. But what if it's close and we have all sorts of weird technicalities for tiebreakers?
All right. There's no way to settle it then. Just put him in the octagon, see what happens.
Yeah. No, all right. So UC Fez, he's got a couple more. We really appreciate you coming here. We love having folks from around the conference chiming in. But says, "Oh yeah, I'm not giving up my Big 12 membership." No, we wouldn't expect you to. And yep. And he says, "Who do you think will be the starting QB for you guys? Week 1." We won't get too much into it. I think the common consensus is McKay Hillstead, who was most likely the going to be backup to Jake Retzlaff, but we'll see. Should be a heated one. We've talked a lot about this. I'm sure we'll talk some more about it throughout the season, but that's what it looks like it will be. You agree?
No, that's it. And I've had my hopes dashed for Bear Bachmeier. I think it was Casey Lundquist on SI did a great piece on true freshman starting quarterbacks, and then I started my own research. And you know who are the 3 starting quarterbacks in the past 10 years who have been true freshmen and either won a conference championship or came close? It's Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, and Brock Purdy. So if you want to start a true freshman and win the conference championship or come close to it, you got to have that level of talent sitting in your backfield. And I think Bear Bachmeier is great. I don't know that I put him up with those 3 names yet. And interestingly enough, all 3 of those did not start the season. They all came in the first couple games after the starter was either injured or underperformed, or they split reps or something like that. But none of them started the season. So I have lost hope that we'll get Bear Bachmeier on the field. I'm Camp McKay Hillstead 100%.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking that too as we were watching. We've been doing it, which this is a nice transition to. We're going to go and do our replayables here and take a look back at a couple games from last season. But going back and watching and just looking at these guys, the quarterback situation. And we had with Baylor, who we'll get to today, he wasn't a freshman, but he didn't start the season either. And so there were some growing pains and in Sawyer Robinson. And last week we talked about K-State and Avery Johnson. He wasn't a freshman. He'd started a fair amount of the previous season, and he came in and he struggled and he looked rattled. And I think those are 2 really talented guys, and those are 2 teams that I think this year will be near, if not at the top of the conference. And so, I just looking at this, I'm just like, it's a big ask for someone to come in as a true freshman. No matter how smart you are, no matter how high your ceiling is, it's still a big ask. And so now I'm not ruling out at some point throughout the season we see Bear Bachmeier start a game, but I don't think he'll start the season.
I think that's a much more likely scenario that happens. But
a good question though. Appreciate you asking. So actually that's an interesting situation with Scott Frost going back to UCF, but we'll get into more of that as we start looking at the season, and especially once we get into the season, we'll be doing some deeper dives there. But let's go ahead and with that transition to our discussion of the replayables. Now we've gotten dinged by YouTube the last couple of weeks as we showed apparently too much footage from YouTube. So I'm going to try to minimize it today, but I still want to go back and reminisce a little bit about the next 2 games on BYU schedule from 2024, where we kind of go back and just talk about a look back at what our mindset was going into the game, our thoughts, our favorite plays and everything during the game, and how BYU came out, and just kind of reliving what was a really special season for the most part. So, so we're coming off a big win from K-State. All of a sudden we're thinking, okay, this could be real. And now we got Baylor. We're going to Baylor. And this is crazy because BYU and Baylor have only played 4 times. The home team has won every time. And the last 2 times have been, I think, pretty exciting games, more so the last one in Provo. And you kind of think, oh no, it's Baylor's turn. And so BYU's going into this with a lot of momentum. Baylor's kind of struggling early on. Now, this is a game that actually I couldn't watch live. I had, planned. This is why I actually like night games. I had plans with my wife during the day. We were gone all day. My phone was blowing up. So I kind of knew something was happening. But how did you feel going into this game?
Well, like you said, it felt like BYU had just legitimized itself against Kansas State. And all of a sudden, this team's for real. That K-State was the game where you said, oh, hey, we've got some positive signs of growth. Let's see how far this takes us, to crushing K-State. And you're thinking, okay, that's not a 1-game anomaly. Now we got to go play a Baylor team. They're rebuilding last year. They have a dangerous defense. Their offense looked a little shaky. I felt good going into it. I felt like we were going to go in and control the game. I know there's a lot of history there. It's a budding rivalry. Really enjoy that part of our membership in the Big 12 is that rivalry with Baylor. But I felt really confident going in against this one. I thought we were going to go in and handle business, and it really was a tale of two halves. I mean, we went in, and in the first half, it looked exactly how I thought it would. We went in, and man, we were so dominant in that first half, um, and really took care of business. I thought our offensive performance was amazing. I remember that touchdown pass to Keelan Marion. I think there was a little dump off pass to Miles Davis early on. They found him wide open. I mean, just some great, really creative play calling. Everything was clicking. And then second half was a totally different story. But going into the game in that first half really was kind of my expectations. We've established dominance. We may get dethroned at some point, but I don't think it's Baylor that's going to do it. And it felt like we were kind of carrying that in through the first half.
Yeah, I'm glad you went in confident. I mean, I was feeling really good, but especially with Baylor struggling a little bit. And this is another one that was kind of like SMU. Now, I don't think this is the same Baylor team that ended the season. I think they were still figuring some things out. But we saw some things from this Baylor team. We're like, yeah, we didn't win big, and it's a team that was struggling, so maybe it didn't look that impressive. But looking at what they did throughout the rest of the season, I think it shows a lot about what BYU did. And it says a lot for Baylor when they were figuring things out for them to come out, regroup, and make this game competitive. So, which is a great rivalry game. Like you said, this is a great part of being in the Big 12. And one frustrating thing that BYU and Baylor haven't had each other on their schedule more frequently. Well, we'll miss them again this year. But, so going through, there was a little bit of frustration, I think, early on because we drive all the way down the field. And then let's see. Maybe I'm mistaking my notes here. Did we have? Oh no, this was not the interception. Sorry, I'm mistaken with my notes. But looking at it, a lot of momentum. But then Baylor, I guess we shut them down on a fourth down try. So Glasgow blows that up, and I think what we saw from Retzlaff is him really getting in his groove. And I think there were still several more examples that I saw watching this back was him having a real sense of when to run and how to evade the defense, how to read the defense and make the right calls. And that's something that, might be high-end talent, but, that's something that just having that feel for the game is really impressive. So,
and remember, he was still our run game at this point. We were dipping deep into the backup running back. Sione Moa had broken out against Kansas State and then was injured for this game. So I think it was really Enoch Nawahine who was kind of trying to carry the load back there. Retzlaff was doing a lot of the rushing himself.
Yeah. So, you're a little bit one-dimensional and still able to pull off an effort like that. And so you mentioned several good plays. I noticed this one right here, and it was this throw to Lassiter, which is just.
Oh, that's the one. It was Lassiter. I was thinking it was Keelan Marion. It was Lassiter.
Not only was it a bomb, but just placed perfectly, just
in stride.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, you said it right. Retzlaff was clicking during this game, just on point. And it was this point, 28-7, where I really felt like, okay, we're comfortably running away with this, and it's not going to show up on the highlights, but shortly thereafter, Connor Pay gets injured, and your starting center, your captain of the offensive line, captain of the offense, he gets injured, and it is a totally different ball game after that.
Yeah,
you can't run the ball. They ran it a little bit in the first half. They couldn't run it at all in the second half. The passing game isn't clicking. Retzlaff doesn't have time to throw. It is night and day when Connor Pay goes out. And we've talked a lot about Bruce Mitchell coming in and filling in admirably, which he did. But I don't know that him getting thrust into action, and it might have been Mocassini or others. I don't know if Bruce Mitchell came in right away, but whoever filled in, you're doing your best. But to lose Connor Pay in that circumstance really hurt us, and the offense just slammed to a halt in the second half.
Yeah, a couple other things. We struggled with mobile quarterback, and I don't know if Sawyer Robinson's considered a mobile quarterback, but had some runs on us. And again, that seemed to be a weakness of this defense. Also, early on, which is funny because it's not how it ended, but special teams struggled a little bit. we just wasn't its same self. And I think that's when you start seeing Baylor kind of chip away and do just enough to stay in the game. And let's see. I mean, we got another clutch field goal. We did get a clutch field goal at the end of the half from Will Farron, but then BYU almost lets Baylor get a clutch field goal of their own at the end of the half and kind of dodge a bullet there, which ended up being, I think, crucial miss. But let's see, going into the second half, the opening drive, we have a huge sack by Tyler Batty, who, that was one criticism. He didn't get to the quarterback a lot. He got there that time. And I think, let's see, we couldn't stop him on fourth down. And again, they just kind of kept going. We had another Lassiter drop. Typical. You got to at least have one per game. And BYU was struggling a little bit and needed a little boost with momentum. But that took us to this play when, kind of backed up on their own 30 and needed to punt the ball. And let's see here. I'm trying to pull this up. And everyone knows what play I'm referring to. But BYU just really couldn't get things going. So that was one of the drops. That one wasn't really Lassiter's fault.
No, that's thrown behind him.
And here we go.
I forgot about this play. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the rugby man himself is just running wild.
Just fearless.
Yes.
I think Johnny Linehan needed to take some notes.
Vanderhaar is not the booming punter that Rico was. He's not NFL level like Rico was. But he's a solid punter, and I like his sense for that. It wasn't the only time he kind of had he had the trick play where he hikes it between his legs to Big Shot Bill for the first down, and just he had some really memorable moments. Vanderhaar's an athlete; he's not just a punter.
Yeah, and it definitely helps when you have a team that's willing to take those chances. Because I mean, going back, let me look at this. What was it was not like close.
It was 31-21. I mean, that's a 10-point game, a two-score game. You needed a spark. You had nothing going. Your offense is struggling. You needed something. And I love that we call those. And I know they'll backfire on occasion, but they're so well executed that most of the time they hit home.
I mean, 4th and 10 on your own 35.
That's a long run. That's a long 10-yard run to get that. I mean, not only the punter's taking a snap, 7, 10, 15 yards back. And so he's got to run 20 yards to get his first down. It was well done. And it was fun to watch him weave. He doesn't just go down like a punter, like, oh, there's this guy around me. He weaves around and slides at the very end.
Yeah.
It was well done.
He picked up, I think, 22 yards on that. So yeah, amazing. And then, but Baylor just would not go away. So you got to give them credit. Of course, BYU's having some struggle stopping them on some crucial downs. But then you have BYU did finally get another stop on fourth down. We might have been 2 for 2 on those. And then now Ahine, who's, what string quarterback or running back?
Yeah, 4th string running back.
Yeah, and he's in. Everybody knows BYU's just milking the clock, and he still just powers through, gets another big run. And so really impressive. Then we get the terrible flag for unsportsmanlike conduct, one of the worst ever on BYU. And then, again, setting BYU back, giving Baylor new life, but then Crew Wakely with a clutch interception.
Yeah, that's the play I remember from the game is Crew Wakely's pick. I mean, game-sealing interception. Absolutely incredible. I think that's his coolest moment as a Cougar. Tough to see him move on. I get it. It's a crowded safety room. He wasn't going to get the snaps he wanted to, so he had to go on. He'll be great at Purdue, I hope. But, man, to have him sniff out that ball against Sawyer Robinson, who, again, turned out to be a really good quarterback last year and is going to be amazing this year, to get that game-sealing pick in that scenario was really impressive.
Yeah, let's see. Let's go ahead. Hopefully we don't get flagged for this, but we'll go ahead and show another play.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 6-point lead at this point. I mean, and
they have all the momentum.
A minute left. Oh, man, that was such a great grab.
Yeah, very satisfying.
Yeah.
All right, so come away with another really good win. At this point, we've had the K-State win. We've had this Baylor win. Feeling really good. 5 games into the season. Can we keep it rolling? Feeling, all good vibes. But Arizona, who is a very impressive team up to this point in the season. You know, we're like, okay, they're also ranked, I believe, right? Coming in and really good quarterback, really good tandem. No, they weren't ranked. They did have a couple losses, but they also had a lot of talent. It was not a gimme by any means. And so BYU having not game day, but what's the FS Fox or whatever?
Yeah, Fox Sports. Yeah.
Yeah, big noon.
Big
There,
news. Yeah,
I
big
just
news
felt
Saturday.
like it's a lot of hype. Is that gonna again? It was kind of like what I was worried about with K-State, was seeing so much hype around it. Then are you gonna fall flat? Like so much energy focused elsewhere, and bringing in Arizona, but I felt like BYU is a better team. It's at home. I felt good about it, but I'm still a little bit nervous going into this. What were you thinking?
Again, not too nervous. I feel for Arizona fans more than anyone else because with Jed Fish, they had something cooking there. I mean, they would have been so good, and I don't feel like they made a great coaching hire when they pulled in San Jose State's coach. So I felt like Arizona was going to struggle, and they were kind of fitting into that pattern by the time we played them. So I wasn't too concerned. We had them at home. I was pretty confident in this game as well. I didn't know that we'd necessarily win by a wide margin. But I really liked how we matched up against them. So yeah, not a lot of concern, and it just felt like this one from the beginning was our defense making a statement. It just felt like Noah Fafita, who's a very good quarterback, a little bit undersized, really fast, was just hampered all day long. I mean, we wreaked havoc in that backfield. And to me, this game sort of dispelled that notion of, oh, we can't handle the mobile quarterbacks and the rushing quarterback causes problems for us. Every mobile quarterback is going to get some degree of yardage on you. But we really contained Fafita in this game and the whole Arizona offense time and time again. I thought it was a masterpiece by our defense.
It really was. And he's so good. And having McMillan there to throw to, those, I mean, obviously he's in the NFL. He was he's a huge talent. And so those guys are going to make plays. You're not going to stop them on everything. And to be able to slow them down. But Fafita, like watching this back, he's good. Like he is elusive and he was tough to bring down. I mean, BYU certainly put pressure on him and made him uncomfortable, but he was good and made some clutch throws. BYU came out ready to play this game. It sucks. That opening drive, they drove down, stalled out, fourth and goal from the 4. But then Arizona seemed to be, going well on offense. It looked like it was going to be like both teams back and forth, a big time shootout game for a little bit was my sense early on watching it back. But I think you're right. BYU's defense was able to contain them. Offense did struggle at sometimes, but I mean, you're going up against a good team. But I agree with you. The coaching hire was bizarre. I can't believe Noah Fafita stuck around again. Like I give him credit for his loyalty to Arizona and to his school. But I was surprised he stuck around the first time. And then based on like how things went last year and then losing McMillan, like I don't know what he stuck around for.
Imagine the success he could have had at Washington. I mean, who did Washington put in a quarterback? I don't even remember who they ran it back with. But man, you could have had Noah Fafita there. And I give credit to anybody who's going to be loyal to their school. I really do. You don't see it very often in this day and age. But I feel for him too, because I don't feel like there's a lot there for him compared to what he built with Jed Fish in that year where they just dominated and had everything going for him into the next year, and he bails for Washington. It was too bad. It was really too bad to see because I was excited to see what Arizona could do in the Big 12.
Yeah, it is a bummer because it hurts the Big 12, right? Because that was going to be another team that's going to come in and have success. And even though like that's another tough team you got to play, it's one that could have brought more credibility to what we're doing. But so BYU's offense though was clicking. First 2 drives went all the way down the field, but Arizona, like we said, also looked like they were doing pretty well. And then we had this play here, which
I think I know which one you're pulling up.
You just look.
Oh man.
Where did he come from? Where did he come from? It's just
You see the wide receiver throwing up his hands after. It's like, what in the world? And again, look at the pressure on
He
Fafita.
was,
He's getting hit as he throws so many times in that game. We didn't get
yeah,
a lot of sacks, but man, we hit that guy again and again and again. And that Glasgow pick six at the end of the game is feeling. It just felt like he was like, I'm not getting hit again. I'm just putting the ball out there. Just stop hitting me, because he got hit so many times.
yeah, he definitely did. And Tanner Wall, let's see if I can do this. It's hard on. Let's watch again where he started from at the beginning of this play. So before the throw, he's over here by the Y, and he's reading the quarterback, and he's looking right there, and he knows. You saw him speed up just a second ago.
Yep.
He already knew right where it was going, and he's just able to close in before either of those guys.
And he had a touch. He had a guy open. That was the right throw, because that safety shouldn't be able to close like that. He had a guy in the end zone. That's a TD pass that changes the game completely. And I'll tell you, I don't love it. I love it for the guy that is a walk on and ends up as a starter. I always worry about what that says about our depth, and where's our 4 stars? Should they be starting? Are they underperforming? And so I don't always love. I know the walk-on's a feel-good story, but man, Tanner Wall was just so. I mean, he showed it again and again and again that he wasn't just a 5'10" dude out of Orem who's working hard in the weight room. He's athletic. He is talented, and he applies it the right way.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, sorry. I was pulling up this other one. Let me get this. I think the depth, I guess I see your point there, but what I love is like the ability to develop these guys, and Jay Hill knows he can spot talent, and then they get the chance and they go out there and earn it. And so whatever he's doing, I'm all for it. But looking at this one, all my plays that I highlighted from this game were all defensive plays.
They are.
You look at that.
It felt like this was the defensive masterpiece. 3 picks against Noah Fafita, who's really good, and all 3 interceptions were something wildly athletic. You showed the Wall interception, Jacob Robinson there, and then Glasgow to end the game and to run it back. It was amazing.
Because watch this, he's trying to go full speed at the quarterback. He realizes, oh, it's going to be out before I can get there. Shifts his whole body and jumps.
Yes.
To swat that, and then has the wherewithal to catch it.
Oh, I'm going to miss that guy. He was so fun to watch.
Completely. Yeah, he was one of my favorites too. The next play and the last play I wanted to show was from another. Actually, this is from probably my new favorite player now that Jacob Robinson is gone, but this isn't the play I was thinking of. Probably won't show this one because I think I've shown too much, but Isaiah Glasgow punches out the ball and, to get a crucial turnover. And then obviously the one at the end of the game, which is the play that I'll always think about. It wasn't necessarily the most impressive play from this game, but it's definitely the one I'll always think about when thinking about this game, is that INT to seal the deal right at the end. And it was just, let's see, maybe I will show this one if I got the time stamp right. But what I loved about it is the pressure that they got on him, like, because he'd been feeling it all night long, like you just pointed out, and they've been getting to him, and he felt it again. I don't blame him for taking a chance, but that I love that he didn't get down. He didn't, do the sportsmanship that he ran it in there, and he had a lane. He went for it and allowed BYU to get that score.
And you needed that at that point. 34-19, a 2-score win, is drastically different in the eyes of voters than a 41-19 win, and that feels a little bit more like a blowout of a good team. And it's different. And I know I like the sportsmanship thing. I like the BYU has that as a priority. But man, sometimes you got to pummel somebody. And on a play like that, punch it in the end zone, get the extra points, get the style points. It's one of your few daytime games that everyone's watching. You got Big Noon Saturday there. You got to win those by those kind of margins, because typically we're playing at 2 a.m. Eastern, and nobody's watching out here where the majority of the voters are. And so when you got your chances like that, you got to take them.
Yeah, I love it. It's more indicative of really how the game went, and to go against like a 3-2 team 2 weeks in a row, and have a closer game than you'd think is comfortable. I just don't think is as impressive. So this became a statement game after Baylor clawed their way back into the last one, and so at this point you're 6-0 and feeling really good. Especially, looking at how the schedule is lining up, there's a real chance for BYU to continue to make some noise going forward. So what a fun season. It was amazing. But anyway, well, with that, let's call. Actually, we did have a comment here from Carl. Retzlaff was fine. My brother's always the most optimistic and first to give out high praises to BYU, especially their quarterback at any time. So, no, you're right. I mean, truthfully, and we've talked about this a lot, Retzlaff was okay. But, I mean, he had a lot of good things that he did, a lot of other things that were kind of head scratchers. So, but not impossible to replicate his production. So I'm still hopeful about this season. So anyway, we'll talk about that some more as time goes on. Thanks for watching. We'll keep doing this as we go throughout the whole season, the rest of the summer, as we go through all these games and covering BYU, Big 12 through the off season. So be sure to like the channel, subscribe. And as always, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.